Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to the latest episode of your daily source for fantasy hockey takes, NHL news, and daily betting breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Coming in hot for a Sunday special, taking a look at what's going on with the suddenly surging Colorado Avalanche and a number of major fantasy star injury updates. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday fun day, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Couldn't be doing this without the support of the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. This is a tricky part of the fantasy hockey schedule, and we're here to help you maneuver it with grace. Mackenzie Blackwood gets a big bag from the Colorado Avalanche, and he's the number one guy now. It's looking like steel. And that has fantasy impact. This team, I want to talk about them. They're surging. They're looking good. I want your take on what you're seeing from them, fantasy or otherwise, and we're going to give you a number of big-time NHL star updates, and these obviously have impacts on your squad. We'll get to bets, another loaded board. My boy, my co-host, is cooking up bets. Major parlays coming in hot, so you want to be tuned into the end of the episode. Over to you, my friend, because look, the Colorado Avalanche have the three-headed beast of Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and Nathan MacKinnon. Those three right there make this team a perennial threat. So when they get themselves a goaltender, he's played well, and he gets a bag, we're going to talk about it. What do you think about the Colorado Avalanche and Mackenzie Blackwood?
Yeah, well, so far it's been a phenomenal move for this organization in Colorado. I mean, Blackwood has come in the 5 games that he's played, and he's been nothing but spectacular. 4 wins, 1 loss so far in the 5 games he's played, a .940 save percentage and a 1.82 goals against average, and that is what is possible when you have a good group of D-men in front of you. So he's getting a lot of help from those guys, Cale Makar, Devin Taves, Samuel Girard, and the bunch of guys in the forward group as well. I do think that this contract is a little bit premature for, again, the short stint, 5 games only that he's been with the Colorado Avalanche. To throw a 5-year deal, 5.25, I believe, annually, 26.25 overall on this 5-year contract for Mackenzie Blackwood. I think it's a little bit premature. And this is a goaltender that has mostly been a backup for the majority of his National Hockey League career. There's been a few seasons, I believe his second year in New Jersey, where he played more than 45 games. The first year with San Jose, he played 44 as well. But for the most part, he's been a backup goaltender. In the last 3 seasons, he's had a below 900 save percentage. Given, again, he's been on some pretty bad teams, San Jose, over the last couple of seasons. For me, again, it's just a little bit premature. He is 28 years old. I would have preferred to have seen, a 2, maybe 3-year deal for Mackenzie Blackwood. I just think it's a little bit much, but we talked about that before. They were scouting this player early on in the season, and they wanted to trade for him early on so they could get a good look. And I guess 5 games is a good enough look for Joe Sakic in the front office and the management. So they get the deal done. Fantasy-wise, I think Mackenzie Blackwood's going to be a phenomenal player for your fantasy hockey team for the foreseeable future. He's just been so good so far in these 5 games. I think he's just going to get better.
Fantasy-wise, most definitely. I think this is one of those cases where I need to separate what I think this means for the Colorado Avalanche long-term and what this means right now for fantasy GMs. Right now, this is a red-hot commodity. A starting goaltender getting the lion's share of starts on a team that's surging. But in terms of, does this move make the Colorado Avalanche a team that is now feared because Mackenzie Blackwood's in the cage? No, it does not. And they are still in that situation in a tough Central Division where they have to battle for their life still. Just because they've won a couple of games, by the way, this is what I wanted to say about his 4-1 record. Those wins come over the Sharks, the Ducks, the Kraken, and the Utah soon-to-be Yeti. So I think we need to take those wins up with a bit of a grain of salt, because the best team that they played along that stretch that he's been in there, I believe, was with the Vancouver Canucks, and they got pumped 3-1. So this right now, definitely very fantasy relevant. I want to turn it back over to you to talk about the Avs just in a sec. Yeah. But keep your eye on Mackenzie Blackwood. This, for me, is the prototypical, if you have 2 stud goalies already, grab this guy as a little insurance. Or if you're a guy like me who's been struggling to get wins in the cage, I'm throwing Blackwood in there basically every night, and I'm going to roll the dice because the rest of this team is surging. Steel, Nichushkin back, Lehkonen really cooking. I don't know what you think about what the Avs are going to be able to do for the rest of the season, but hit me with your take on a team that is clearly playing a lot better and doing what they do best, scoring goals.
Yeah, I just want to touch up on Mackenzie Blackwood before we talk
Please.
about the Avalanche for in depth. This could pan out the same way it did when Colorado traded for Darcy Kemper, and we know how that ended up. The Stanley Cup champion that season. Obviously, only 1 year for Darcy Kemper, but this could work either way for Colorado. It could be the best decision they've made, or this could end up exactly what has happened to Alexander Georgiev. I think with Mackenzie Blackwood at the helm, it gives them their best chance, and it does make them a very dangerous team going into the postseason. And
Sure.
A crucial 2 points against the Utah Hockey Club the other night, 4-1 win, catapults them over the Dallas Stars, who have now dropped to a first wildcards position, and the Avalanche cracked the top three in that Central. And there's still an uphill battle because the Minnesota Wild got those 2 points against Dallas. The Winnipeg Jets are still cooking. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. The Colorado Avalanche are 8-2-0. I just think Mackenzie Blackwood has given them that confidence and that stability in the blue paint where they know they have a lot of trust in him to stop that puck. Now, again, still 5 games is a very small sample size, but
Sure.
compared to what Alexander Georgiev was giving them for the first 2 months, and Eustace and Noonan, I mean, it's been a good 5 games, just to say the least.
This is a team that's also third in the Western Conference for goals for at 125, only behind the Winnipeg Jets and Vegas Golden Knights, who have had 2 very strong starts to the season. And that's kind of where it sits for me. Nathan MacKinnon has a 60 piece already. Mikko Rantanen, second in the NHL in scoring with 53 points. So now that they can maybe try and calm what was a very chaotic start to the season in the blue paint with now a blue chip fantasy prospect in Mackenzie Blackwood, you got to pay attention because pieces like Lehkonen, Nichushkin, the peripheral pieces are going to start to surge in value as well. So when you see a team go, I always say this, try and catch a piece of it. We'll do the same with the rest of today's episode. We're going to talk about Kaprizov, Ovi, the Canucks injuries, starting to pile up a little bit. We haven't spoke about the Canucks in a while. We'll talk about that. Big time bets, of course. I got to turn it over to the king and the guru. I got another same game parlay, though, just in case. Today's episode is a good place where you can be placing those bets with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W, and not only can you bet on who will win the game, but they also have prop bets, which players will score a tutty, how many points will each team score, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first bet hits. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review.
True.
Flip, and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, especially over the entire season 2024. We're heading into 2025. Big things happening. We do appreciate everyone and love everyone, all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much for that. Big news injury-wise, Ovechkin has missed the last 16 games, but he will be making his return Saturday. He did make his return Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs, probably one of his favorite teams to play against. So,
yes,
he's going to get right back into it. Only 26 goals away from tying or breaking the record from Wayne Gretzky. So he's just going to jump right back in like he never left, missed 16 games. I hope, again, for my sake, because he's on a few of my fantasy teams out there, that he just starts rifling that puck like we know he can.
And that's the takeaway here is the Washington Capitals were 10-5-1 in 16 games without Ovi. So it's not one of those situations where I think I spoke about this yesterday or the day before. I expect him to come back in and be shot out of a cannon, ready to chase down those 27 goals here to wrap up the season. I also want to see if this Washington hot start is going to be a prolonged situation where there has been a number of valuable fantasy assets to go after on this Washington Capitals team. And if you are a fantasy GM that's been perhaps hanging on to some of the caps that have been a little bit up and down of late, Connor McMichael going quiet, Protas being a little bit hot and cold. I think Ovi back into the top 6, just affecting the power play, just affecting the mojo and the ability for this team to spread out their offensive attack, something that has been a struggle over the last couple of years, Steele. This is going to be huge for the value of those fantasy pieces. So I just wanted to mention that. And before we can move on to the Canucks next and wrap up with Cappy. The fact that this man broke his leg and was expected to miss at least 4 to 6 weeks, and he's back. Russian machine never break, but that's just straight up impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, it was almost, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks. So, I mean, right on the exact timeline, but the fact that he's back so soon and he's been skating, back in a regular jersey, he shed that non-contact jersey a week ago. So It's good to see him get back into action. And again, there's lots of hockey left in the second half of the season. There's no question if anyone's able to get 26 goals in the remainder of the regular season, it's Alexander Ovechkin who can do that. Like we've seen him do so many times throughout his NHL career. Big news out west, though. The Vancouver Canucks are without Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes for their game on Saturday. Big news, but that goes very well for what I was talking about on yesterday's episode, that a lot of this pressure, a lot of the load has to go on JT Miller's shoulders, who has to step up in the second half of the season. And without those two guys right there, JT Miller is bound to step up in a big way. But obviously for your fantasy hockey teams out there, if you have Petey, if you have Hughes, it's not good, especially at the end of a week of your weekly matchups.
It's also a situation that right now all we know is day to day.
Yeah.
It's looking like something that's obviously serious enough that they probably are just being operating out of an abundance of caution. Not a whole lot of info out. However, this is going to be a shuffling of the lines. P.S. Suter moves up to that second line center spot to play with Connor Garland and Nils Höglander. And the top line is looking like DeBrusk, JT Miller, and Brock Besser once again. So this is also going to be one of those situations where someone on the back end for the Canucks, and really after Quinn Hughes, it's not pretty, is going to have to step up. And I don't know how that shakes out fantasy-wise. We'll talk about some more options for your lineup on tomorrow's waiver wire episode. Make sure you're tapped into that. But the point holds true with the Canucks like it does when we were talking about the Colorado Avalanche in terms of where they're at in the division. The Canucks have 41 points, sitting in fourth, a wild card situation right now, and the Calgary Flames are nipping at their heels. And when you look at Vegas, Edmonton, and the LA Kings on top, Steele, given what's gone on for this Vancouver Canucks team this year, kind of a nightmare season at points with all the off-ice distractions, I would be keeping my eyes peeled on this situation, because if either of these guys are out for more than a game or two, which it's sounding like they won't be, but if they do, this is a team that you have to be very wary of the fantasy pieces that you've been enjoying success from, Lankinen and otherwise, and be careful, because there could be a prolonged losing streak here for a team that I think I've said to you before, I think is very above average and been kind of overachieving in a way, and kind of lucky as well to be where they are this season.
Yeah, especially without Thatcher Demko for the beginning of the season. I mean, with Petey and Hughes now out, again, you're going to have to put a lot of the brunt of this pressure on Thatcher Demko in the crease. You still have to be very wary of how much, you want to be making sure he's getting enough rest. You're not making sure you're overworking him in that blue paint, especially with the surgeries he's had. Again, JT Miller, Brock Besser, Connor Garland are guys that really need to step up if this is going to be more than a couple of days, more than a day-to-day situation for both Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. Kirill Kaprizov, though, another team out west, out. He's been day-to-day. Big win, like I said, for the Minnesota Wild. Down 2-0 to the Dallas Stars. They claw their way back, and Brock Faber with the game winner in overtime. Nice wraparound move around Jake Ottinger. Another team fighting for the top position in the Central Division. But Kaprizov's been day-to-day with a lower body injury. But they're getting done without him. I know they're 4-6-0 in their last 10 games. Joel Eriksson Ek is actually potentially returning today as well against the Ottawa Senators tonight. So he's been out since the beginning of December. He's been out for the last 3 to 4 weeks. So it'll be nice to get Joel Eriksson Ek back in the lineup, and especially off the IR in your fantasy hockey leagues.
Right now, that top line, Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, Matt Zuccarello, if you can, get a piece of it and just enjoy the success once Kaprizov comes back. Apparently, it's head coach John Hines said that Kaprizov was dealing with a banged-up body before the break. So this is probably just a little bit of maintenance, and let's not get it twisted. This guy is eating almost 23 minutes of ice time per night, only behind Brock Faber in terms of the lead on this team. So not only has his offensive success been critical, but he has been a guy eating a ton of minutes. So you might have to just give this guy a little bit of a maintenance situation. 23 goals, 27 assists in 34 games, Hart Trophy in the mix. This has been a player steal that I think we've been kind of waiting for that explosion moment. And I know he's been bubbling and having great production still, but that season is here. So I hope that he is back sooner than later, fantasy-wise, just kind of general hockey fan-wise, because this Minnesota Wild team, as much as it's been a great start, point holds true once again. No one has anything locked up yet. Not even a team like the Winnipeg Jets, who have been the best team in the NHL this year, arguably, and they only have a 3-point lead. So that Central Division will remain tight. And you got to keep your eyes peeled on these situations, which is why we'll continue to talk about it. We got Monday's waiver wire coming in hot, and big time bets whenever you're ready, pal, because you are red hot with these bets, and I am now very, very intrigued to hear what you have to say about tonight's games.
Big time bets coming up next, but I do just want to mention real quick Linus Ullmark as well. Let's talk about the Ottawa Senators just very, very quickly. Linus Ullmark is also out day-to-day right now with a lower body injury, I believe it is. Right now, the Ottawa Senators have their third and fourth string goaltenders on this current road trip. Matt Sogard getting the nod Saturday against the Winnipeg Jets. They have Levi Marilainen backing him up and potentially starting tonight against the Minnesota Wild as well. So both Anton Forsberg and Linus Ullmark are currently day-to-day. I would recommend staying away from both goaltenders as they go up against some top-tier teams in this Central Division like we just talked about. But, obviously, hopefully it's not anything major with Linus Ullmark. Again, there's not really a ton of information out right now. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup over the last month and a half or so. But when he's been in over the last 4 weeks, he's been red hot.
8-0-1 in his last 10 starts. According to head coach Travis Green, he tweaked his back, and he's not good enough to skate right now. So he is not going to be on the team's 5-game road trip. So right there, I agree with what you're saying about those two goaltenders. However, also note that with a 5-game road trip upcoming and Linus Ullmark not being there, there will be someone in the blue paint for Ottawa catching starts. So I agree with Steele, especially when that schedule is not exactly fortuitous. But if you need a guy, you need to fill in, maybe the Ottawa Senators goaltender is just it's looking like. So if he tweaks his back, Steele, and he's been dealing with it. Yeah. Again, I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. If I'm a Linus Ullmark or an Ottawa Senators fan, that's a situation for a goaltender who has been so critical to their kind of revamp here. Yeah, somebody in Ottawa, again, just like I was talking about on the Vancouver Canucks blue line, someone in the blue paint in Ottawa is going to need to step up if they really want to be considered as a playoff threat here.
Yeah, I will say after tonight's game against Minnesota, the Ottawa Senators will have the next 3 days off, and then they'll play the Dallas Stars on Thursday and then the St. Louis Blues on Friday. So maybe in between that time on their 3 days off, they can get either Anton Forsberg or Linus Ullmark back in the lineup. I'm again, not quite sure if you want to be going with the third and fourth string goaltenders on this 4-game road trip. Big time bets, though, coming up after the break. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And the goal is so simple. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings pour in all season long. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because you can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Braden Point, 2+ goals. Josh Morrissey, 4+ shots. Igor Shesterkin, 30+ saves. The possibilities are endless. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive this bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. We really do appreciate that as well. Leave the comments on the YouTube channel, the questions, statements, opinions on Twitter, wherever you can find us. We really do appreciate all that dialogue, conversation, feedback we get from everybody out there. So thank you so much for all of that. Big time bets, though. We're going into Sunday ready, locked and loaded with these picks. Flip, over to you, my friend. Where are you looking at first?
Well, I'm going to get mine out of the way quick and dirty because you've earned this reputation. I went with the same game parlay Saturday night, Edmonton Oilers. I spoke at length. I think the Edmonton Oilers are due for a major second half for all the reasons that I covered yesterday. We obviously don't know the result of that game yet. We're recording a bit early as always. However, they roll into Anaheim on the back-to-back, and I know it's a back-to-back, but I'll hit you with these numbers. The Edmonton Colorado Avalanche, the Edmonton Oilers, it's been a long couple of weeks still. The Edmonton Oilers are 9-1-0 in their last 10 games against the Ducks. And let me hit you with this. The most recent 3 games, 7-2 Edmonton, 5-3 Edmonton, and 6-1 Edmonton. Obviously, at the spearhead of that, Connor McDavid, and I'll spit them all out real quick because 7 of the last 9 also steal. Guess what? Over the number. Actually, that's a lie. 8 out of the last 9 over the number. So Oilers, Ducks, over 6.5. Connor McDavid, 2+ points. Once again, I'm doing the same thing in his career steal, averaging 2+ points, 51 points in 28 games. Not bad. And the lock of the night, and this one's for you. Oilers, puck line, baby. That's the lock of the night. I love those 3. It might be too obvious. So if you want to dial back, I would focus in on McDavid once again because this guy's going to be shot out of a cannon, much like I was talking about Ovi in the second half. So those are the 3 picks. Same game parlay. Hammer them together, and let's get it.
I'm loving the back-to-back Edmonton Oilers same game parlay. I hope it panned out for you on Saturday. I'm feeling this one for Sunday as well against Anaheim. I'm looking at 2 different games right now. My first pick, we just talked about them. 2 teams, actually. I'm taking the Wild on the money line against these Ottawa Senators at home. Sure. The Wild are 8-2-0 in their last 10 meetings against Ottawa. They've dominated them, especially in Minnesota. They've won their last 5 games at home. So I'm feeling this home right here, going with my boys in Minnesota. Yes, hopefully, sir. Joel Eriksson Ek is back in the lineup as well. I'm feeling this one for my first pick. The second and third pick come from the same game. I'm juicing up these odds. As of right now, I'm going to take the Lightning on the puck line against the Montreal Canadiens. This is a back-to-back situation for both Montreal and Tampa Bay, but I'm feeling the Tampa puck line. They've won 8 out of the last 10 against Montreal, and 6 of those 8 were won by 2 or more goals. I'm just going to juice up those odds because I feel the offense in Tampa. And then I'm also finishing that one off with the Lightning Canadiens over 6.5 in this matchup. 7 of the last 10 have gone way over the number. I'm hammering the over 6.5. There's going to be backup goaltenders in for both Montreal and Tampa Bay as Andre Vasilevsky played Saturday against the New York Rangers. Those are my 3 picks: Wild money line, Lightning puck line, and the Lightning Canadiens over 6.5.
At this point, I think I just have to follow suit verbatim out of respect. I hope we continue to cook because, look, my Bills are getting a little crooked out of hand here, Steele. So let's have another big week, hopefully starting on Sunday. We'll be back. Waiver wire special, of course. These next couple of weeks are critical, Steele. And you and I will have a couple of different angles to talk about over the next coming weeks. We got some new segments coming in the new year. We'll have special guests lined up. This is your daily source for fantasy hockey and betting news. And we get you guys in and out Monday through Friday, 30 minutes. You know what it is.
7 o'clock in the morning, every single day, 5 days throughout the week. Thank you so much, though, for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen. Like Flip said, we couldn't be doing this without everyone out there tuning in every single day. So we really do appreciate it. For your second listen, though, make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends. You can find the link in the description below so you don't have to go searching for it. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your matchups, your weekly bets, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.